Okay, it is 6 p.m. So, good evening, and on behalf of the City of Independence, welcome to this Planning Commission meeting for the evening of August, oh my goodness, what day? 23rd. I should know that. 2022. Before we get started, will you join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For those of you who would wish to speak tonight, please remember to address all comments and questions to the chair and keep your comments brief and on point. If you agree with the previous comment, please simply indicate that you also agree and move on. To expedite tonight's meeting, I will ask those who wish to testify or believe they would like to testify to please stand and be sworn in. Thank you. Will you all raise your right hand? Do you solemnly, please raise your right hand. Yeah. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth before this commission? If so, please say I do. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. The first thing on our agenda tonight is the consent agenda, and I want to remind the commissioners, normally, if we have anything else, a continued case or anything on the consent agenda, you always have the opportunity to pull something off of the consent agenda. Tonight, all we have is the minutes, so I will give you, yes.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
Will you please call roll? And I guess this will also do as our roll call.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair McLean.
Yes, the consent agenda has been approved. Our first case is case 22. You know what? Let me go over real quick before we get started. I want to remind everybody to turn off your cell phones. That includes us, so I'm just going to double check mine so that we are not being disruptive. So hopefully you're all on silent. Okay, first case. Case 22-125-09, rezoning /PUD of 2350 South Hayden Street. City, we're ready for a report.
Okay, this is a vicinity map for the villas at Windmill Fields. Action to rezone from R6 to R18 PUD and for the approval of a preliminary development plan. Looking at the vicinity map here, you can see it's an area that's east of Kings Highway and west of Hyvee, basically the huge field behind where the new car wash there on 23rd Street is being constructed. The history of this property, well, it is currently zoned R6 single-family residential. Of course, our prior zoning referred to such designation as R1B, and earlier it was known as R1, but essentially it's been the same zoning since the 1960s, which is single-family residential. Looking at the property history, the second item there, the house at 1509 East 23rd Street behind Discount Tire was occupied until earlier this year. That property has been added to the vacant land to the west as part of this development. The parcels for what had been 1703 East 23rd Street South the former site of a house that's been gone for years was replatted as part of McBee Landing subdivision with 4 lots and 1 common tract last year. And that's the plat that contains the 4, or the subdivision that contains the 4 commercial plats, 3 commercial plats, one of which is being developed as the car wash, and then the huge one in back, the remainder was the residential portion that they're coming back today to introduce a plan to you for. A 5th lot has been added to this subdivision, and you looked at that rezoning for that 2 weeks ago, and that's along the street there, along 23rd. That's not part of the residential portion of the development, but is the 5th lot of this same plat, or will be the 5th lot of this same plat. The villas at Windmill Fields will consist of Lot 4, like I said, plus 2 additional tracts that have been added to the southeast that were unplatted properties, one of which was the site of the house that sat behind, recently burned, sat behind the Discount Tire parking lot to the south of that location. So we'll go through the analysis. First thing we'll go through is the property's comprehensive plan. The proposal relates to first of all, the strategic plan, in that it quote, achieves the livability, choice, access, health, and safety through a quality built environment through building new housing units that fill a market need. And then the comprehensive plan principle that applies is to provide a density of housing options in all neighborhoods and facilitate development of connected neighborhoods where appropriate, and also create neighborhoods and housing that should be designated to be inclusive with the needs of a wide span of mobility. As you can see from the comprehensive plan, this area is envisioned as being residential in nature. So the zoning is reflective of that, in that it was zoned R6, and a rezoning to R18 PUD would also be consistent with the comprehensive plan in remaining a residential use. There are no historic or architectural sites of note, at least that we know of on this site. Public utilities, water, sewer, and electrical services are all available in the right of way and nearby. Environmental, storm water, and stream buffer issues are not at hand. This is a high piece of ground. As far as the phasing goes, giving the proposed development will be a rental community sited on one large lot and constructed in multiple phases. Permits for each structure in a particular phase will be submitted around the same time, obviously. The development's first phase, on the north half of the property, there will be 8 sixplexes and 3 fourplexes, and then 6 6 plexes and 3 4-plexes will be constructed in the second phase. And of course, the new Hayden right-of-way and the private drive connection to the Hyvee there on the east, northeast, will be constructed with the first phase. As far as elevations go, the buildings, we'll look at the elevations here. The buildings will have a light vinyl siding with white trim. Although not clearly depicted here, there will be a gray 4-foot stone cultured wainscot that will wrap around the structure. Accents of gray shake siding will also be included on the trusses to create material variation and enhance curb appeal. The roof will be dark gray composite shingles. The structures will be slab-on-grade buildings with minimal to no steps and handicapped accessible units. So staff is recommending the 4-foot-high wainscot, again, be carried around the facades and facing the driveway and the parking areas. Okay. Traffic study. Trans Systems prepared a study for the proposed commercial and residential developments of the McBee Landing and Windmill Fields. The study included trip generation estimates and trip generation estimates, capacity analysis, and a summary of findings. The study indicates that most of the side street movements at the study intersections are projected to operate at level E or F, the worst categories for intersection movements during the peak hours. This is largely due to the high traffic volumes on East 23rd Street. The suggested mitigation has been to construct additional outbound lanes on the driveway and Hayden Street to prevent bypass of course, left-turning vehicles on the 23rd Street and provide an access drive west to the rear of the Discount Tire property to their parking lot, and thus onward to the joint signalized access that's shared with Hyvee there east of the Discount Tire building. And as far as CIP investments, there are no proposed projects in the area. Streets, driveways, and parking lots. Access to the villas at Windmill Fields will be via Hayden Street, will be the main access. Extended across 23rd Street, or extended eastward parallel to 23rd Street from the west side to the eastern end of the development to provide access to Discount Tire and Hyvee access drive. The north-south part of Hayden will be an actual right-of-way, and the east-west connector over to Hyvee would be a private drive. Okay. Within the apartment development itself, there'll be an internal circulation of circling driveways basically around, or not circling driveway, but circling aisles around every group of 4 buildings or so, and to allow access to most sides of the buildings. And you would have perpendicular parking in front of the front elevation of each of the buildings. And lastly, landscape and screening. When the final development plan is submitted, in addition to the street trees indicated on the preliminary development plan, trees and shrubs should be provided around the parking lot perimeters and in the parking lot end caps and around the perimeter of buildings as indicated in the UDO. You'll have, of course, green space will lie between opposite facing buildings. Some of the amenities in the larger green space areas, particularly down in the south and east corner of the property, would include walking trails, picnic areas, benches, etc. The stands of trees abutting to the west, the south, and east sides of the property should be preserved where possible. And, of course, all along where this abuts residentially zoned and uses around the property, a medium density landscaping as defined in the UDO would need to be planted. So, of course, here's the aerial photograph, again, of the property, and showing some of the properties within the 185-foot notification area there that were given notice. So here's an overall view of the development. You can see how it relates to the commercial that's already platted to the north, and of course the car wash and the adjacent parking lot that are being constructed, and of course the shared or the detention basin anyway that's south of that proposed parking lot there west of the tire store. And this is, of course, the final plat. It's already in place with its easements. Some of the floor plans of the units. Again, picture of that. Okay, this is, I'll do a physical tour of this property. We're looking southwest from a point just south of the discount tire store, west of that parking lot, looking across the field there. This is the house that lies south of Discount Tire that has the cross-access drive that runs just west of the Discount Tire building. And the intention was that this building would be used for the community building for the apartments. The applicant can clarify, but my understanding is that given the fire that happened on this property, they're talking about tearing it down and building another community building instead in that spot. This is just pivoting westward from that same location, looking out across the property. And then this is looking more west. And you can see the rear of the car wash that's along 23rd Street there. And then this is the drive access to that house that was to the south of the tire store. And then this is Hyvee's parking lot, or their dock area, just east of their building. So showing that tree line against where that residential property is there that the applicant purchased. And this is from Kings Highway. So these are some of the neighbors that border this property on the west side, here on the east side of Kings Highway, just south of 23rd Street. This is actually from the south end of the property, from the neighborhood that abuts to the south. The gap between a couple of houses there on the sharp curve there on, I believe that's 26th Street. And this is the house that lies northwest of the property, there at Kings Highway and 23rd Street. This is what lies immediately to the north of where Hayden will penetrate the property to the south, there across 23rd Street. This is looking back west toward Nolan Road. And then this is the western edge of the property looking south. And then this is looking back toward the east, toward Lee Summit Road, back toward the new car wash. And this is looking straight down Hayden, the property being, about 300 feet south of here. And then this is looking across the two other commercial lots to the west of the car wash. And same picture, but just a little farther south. And then looking back north along the western property line. Staff recommends approval of this rezoning and preliminary development plan with the following conditions. Prior to the issuance of any building permits, all the tracts and lots of the villas of Windmill Fields shall be replatted into one lot. Name the new larger lot McBee Landing replat lot 4A, replat of lot 4. Readdress lot 4A as 1250 South Hayden Street. For the final development plan, create medium-density landscape buffers along the periphery of the property per the landscaping section of the Unified Development Ordinance. Number 5, the stands of trees abutting the west, south, and east sides of the property should be preserved where possible. 6, provide a parking lot perimeter and in-cap trees and shrubs around the buildings. The exact number of plantings worked out with staff for the final development plan. Number 7, the final development plan should provide an elevation of an entry sign feature. Number 8, 4-foot high masonry facades on the elevations of the buildings must be carried around driveway and parking facing facades. And number 9, the units will be addressed on the final development plan. So that concludes my.
Thank you for that. Commissioners, do you have any questions of city before we have the applicant come forward? Okay, let's have the applicant come forward, please. State your full name and your address, please.
Stephen Arthur McBee, 21625 Ridge Avenue, Gallatin, Missouri, 64641.
Thank you. What did I tell you, people? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Good evening. Okay, it's up now. How are you guys?
Good.
Okay, so.
Do you need him to restate his name and address? Okay.
Good. Oh, sure. Stephen Arthur McBee, 21625 Ridge Avenue, Gallatin, Missouri, 64640.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Brian did a good job of going over it. Do you want me just to dive in on mine, or you guys want to just ask questions, or how do you want to get started?
If there's anything else you kind of want us to know, if you feel like you did a good job representing you, are there any questions any of you have?
I got lots of questions.
All right.
So my first question is going to be on parking. How many parking spots are there in this 108 development?
Robert, there's 2 per unit, plus the additional, so that, yeah.
And then you have to say your name and address, please.
There's 216 per unit, but there's additional. So 216 for the 108 units, but there's some additional as well.
Okay, then my next question is going to be, I see, looks like most of the parking is supposed to be at the back of the places. Is that right? Is that what I'm looking at? That picture you guys got up there, I cannot read whatsoever. I wish I had a better picture so I could see it.
Yeah, it's in front, actually.
They are in front, because I mean, your
Yes.
pictures,
They're
your
right-
pictures
right
did
to
not
the-
show parking in the front that we have. The picture I saw of the front of the, was just entries, no parking.
Oh, yeah, on the elevation plan, on the rendering, yeah.
This picture right here shows no parking, that's why I'm saying, where's the parking at?
Yes, that's why it's all private roads and private maintenance as well.
Okay, so then what I'm seeing is we're going in, because I see the lines on parking somewhat, so you're saying the backs are really towards the car wash, then, what you're saying, on the first row?
Yes, on the first row.
On the first
Yes,
row.
that is
Okay,
correct.
so that's the backyard.
The first row, the furthest north row, the backs would face the 23rd Street to
Okay,
the
they'll
north.
face 23rd Street.
Yes,
Then
sir.
my question is, how deep are those then?
As far as the actual size of the units
No,
itself,
backyards. We just went through one of these a couple weeks ago, that's why I'm trying to figure this one out too.
From the back of the yard to the front?
Yeah, back
I mean,
of the yard.
From the front to the back, or?
No, from the back of the yard to the house, what's the property line? Is that gonna be green space? That's what I was trying to figure out, I guess.
well, yeah, so let's see.
Robert Walquist, Quist Engineering, 1201 Notting Hill, Greenwood, Missouri.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is not right away. That's
Okay.
actually a public road, or a private road, I'm sorry. The one going east-west
East to west are private roads.
is a
okay.
private road,
Okay.
but we're 30 foot from the edge of curb, the
Okay.
back of curb.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, okay,
And then most of those buildings from back door to back door are about 25 to 30 feet.
so they are fairly close
Yeah.
together.
Well, 15-yard rear yard is typically what a rear yard in.
Okay. Well,
But
because
yeah,
I mean,
30 feet.
we had this problem last time, but I mean, you guys don't butt up to anything or anything like that. 'Cause
Yeah, we
have-
tried to keep the neighborhoods in the green space over on the edges, and we've
Okay.
got 20 feet between the driving aisles and
Okay.
the property lines.
What is your guys' opinion on adding trees and shrub between the parkings? I mean, that's going to take away some of the parking area, so I don't, because that's not on here, and I know that you guys are going to work that out with them, but I'd like to have what you guys would like to have per what the city wants for you to go.
We do put, I think there's a requirement for those islands to have so many trees in those islands.
Yeah.
And is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I've seen
there's
too
like
many of
5
these things.
shrubs and
Right. Well, I've seen too
and
many
2 trees.
these properties go in, and then a few years later, the trees look terrible and things like that, and you guys are cutting them down. So I wonder if it's really, I know it's part of the rules that we're supposed to have them, but I just don't like those rules sometimes.
Yeah, it is advantageous to have the trees
Mhm.
for the amenities, and a lot of people like to park under them just because of the shade.
Right.
Since we aren't
Yeah, there's no
offering
garages, right, yeah.
Garages, right. So
Correct. Okay. So
And-
basically, you're
they
saying,
would give us a hard time if they died.
okay, so the private street is roughly 20 feet wide or 15?
No,
it's a full
it's a full road.
It's a full
there's
road, so
space.
it's a full, so basically, sorry, so a full road, so basically a fire truck and all that can get down through there, no problem?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's one thing right there, okay.
Yeah, George has looked it over, and he did some suggestions, and we revised.
Accommodated those
Yeah.
per his
Because
suggestions.
we had some dead ends that he didn't like.
My next thing is going to be on the traffic study. I see we're going to have a traffic count of probably about another 1,000 cars a day come into that spot. Is that the way I read that correctly? Does that
You're
sound-
including all the commercial?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what, on the commercial side. So they went through the traffic study, obviously, at the peak
Right.
hours.
Right.
But again, with the 55, I mean, I don't, and this is what I was going to say. If in my opinion, which is my opinion, I don't know what else would be more perfect in this piece of property where you're in walking distance from Hyvee, from Starbucks, from Walgreens, CVS, on a 55 and older community. Yeah, there's 2 spaces per each unit. A lot of those times it's going to be a one-car situation. So I really don't see a congestion or, any kind of problem, within the development ourselves. We're talking about green space and shrubs, and I'm all about, I mean, the more, the better.
Okay.
And if you look what we have on here, I mean, we're putting a walking trail in.
I can't see any of that. That's the problem. I can't see any of that because this is so
Okay, yeah, I didn't
small.
know. So we've got, and that's what I was going to start off with, just saying, hey, I mean, of course I believe in a project. I wouldn't take a project on if I didn't think it was a good project. But this
Right.
project, to me, fits the mold of what nothing better could fit here than this type of project with the situation, with the way the land lies and everything that's around this and walking distance.
Right.
So obviously having 0 entry homes where, no steps, 0 entry, and they could walk. They could walk to Hyvee. They don't even literally need a car, to be there. But we've provided 2 spots for people visiting, grandkids, whatever. 2 different areas of like dog park, playground area with a.
Oh, so that
the-
stuff's in here also?
Oh, yeah.
Since
for
we
sure.
can't see it and read it, that's why.
Yeah,
that's why
for
it's
sure.
really hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, this is a direct market type deal. We've got to do a good job to attract our
Okay.
tenants. And
Right.
so, yeah, we definitely want it to be, again, maintenance provided, everything taken care of so it stays nice for, longevity into the future of how it's taken care of.
Okay, so this might not be to you specifically, but I think it's Woodbury. Is that the street that's got the traffic light on it? Is that correct, Brian?
No,
No,
it's a T intersection that's just the driveway that has a traffic light.
because according to Google, it calls it Woodbury. That's what's throwing me.
Maybe it has called Woodbury, but it's not a named street as far as the
That's not a
city
named
is
street. So
concerned.
basically, the city
It's-
has nothing to do
It's
with that.
Hyvee's driveway.
Okay, so the city has nothing to do with that driveway or nothing, it's just our light? Well, really, is it our light or it's?
I think it's MoDOT's.
It's MoDOT's light. Okay, so you guys plan on tying into that driveway area, correct? Or do you?
On Hayden, so we're coming in, the primary is going to be on Hayden with the turn lane right there.
Well, I know that, but I meant where the street light is, so people, if they want to, they can
Yeah,
go.
that's one, yes, that's correct. So we have 4 different access points
Okay,
into the development.
Okay.
Starting, the furthest west would be Hayden, all
Okay.
the way down to the light.
okay, so you are going to light, so people can use the light to get out to go left. Because I know that's what the traffic study was, the biggest thing was, that I know they recommended a turn lane. I didn't know if you guys looked into that, a right turn lane off of 23rd Street into your place. Did you guys even heading eastbound? A traffic study did say something about that. Okay. see-
Hi, Ashley Smith, 1203 East US Highway 24, in Newings,
Okay.
Missouri 6050. So for the traffic study, they were recommending on Hayden Street, the primary entrance to the very west.
Uh-huh.
That was actually already approved and built into the plan when we did the car wash, because that will also be connected to that.
Okay, so that's already there then?
Correct.
See,
That
see,
will
I
be
didn't know that.
constructed, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that might be all my questions right now.
Well, you can jump in at any time if you remember you forgot one. Any other questions? I can't think of anything either, so if it's okay, sit down and
Thank
we'll see who else would like to chat with us. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for this project? Is there anyone here who would like to speak against this project? Okay. Sir, you can't, you have to come and speak, though. Just remember to state your name and address, and you were sworn in, is that correct?
Correct.
Thought so.
My name is Jim Paulo. I live at 2416 Lee Summit Road. My first question is, on the first slide that they presented, I believe it's incorrect because it matters to me because of where my property lies. If I could see that slide again.
Okay, yeah.
and I can try to point out to
The
you
first slide you showed.
Is that the pictures you're talking about?
back all the way to the very beginning.
Talking about the plats or development plan?
This area right here. You got a picture that shows.
Okay. The
Hey, sir.
preliminary development plan.
Sir,
Sir, you have to be by the
in
microphone.
order to help us make a record, can you address questions you have to the chair, and then the chair will decide who needs to answer the question best?
Okay.
Thank you.
My question stands, I need to have a clarification on what property is trying to be rezoned. Because I think the original slide was incorrect, or this information is incorrect that I have, that I got at the neighborhood meeting. One of the two is incorrect because they're different.
Do you have any copies of those?
Well, I know they've expanded their proposed development by 2 lots, so he has the right one? Okay.
Yeah, I believe that is the correct one.
Could you ask him to show, to keep going back? One more. There you go.
There you go.
Can I move to this map and point to you where I want to, the area in question?
Oh, this map is one we created, and it's an error. So it's not the applicant's map.
Thank you.
It left off one of the lots.
What's an error about it?
Isn't it? I mean,
Whoops, go back. He was pointing on, go back.
So, sir, you'll have to point.
yeah, see the little, the step down. Like, you see what I'm saying? It doesn't do that. Oh,
This section is also in the rezoning, is that correct?
yes. That's why I said, this is the staff's map, and it's not what they submitted, and it's just an error.
Were notices provided based on the proper map?
But by their map, not ours. This is just our map for the PowerPoint. That's
Okay.
all it is.
Okay.
So we're clear?
Yes,
And I also wanted to speak, so I go ahead.
yes.
Okay. I'm Jim Paulo. I live at 2416 Lee Summit Road in Independence. I also own 2410 Lee Summit Road, which shares a boundary line with the proposed development. I'm the third generation of my family to have lived here.
Sir, be sure to speak more.
I am the third generation of my family to have lived here, raised the fourth, with the fifth visiting often. My very earliest memories, 65 years ago, include going to the country to stay at Grandma and Grandpa's farm for the weekend, where I thoroughly enjoyed chasing the chickens despite my grandma's persistent scoldings. Now whenever I see chickens, I wish I could chase them. I strongly oppose this zoning request. Here's why. The proposed usage does not conform with the surrounding usage. According to the Jackson County Parcel Viewer, there are only 11 lots that share a common property line with the area in question, excluding Hyvee, Discount Tire, and the properties at McMee's Coffee and Car Wash. All 11 of those lots are owned by homeowners that live on the lots or adjoining lots. All lots have single-family residences or are vacant. The average lot size is 2 acres. My property is almost 4 acres. The proposed development has 8.7 housing units per acre, 17.4 times more living units per acre than the surrounding 11 properties. The city's Unified Development Ordinance says Independence residential zoning districts are intended to create, maintain, and promote a variety of housing opportunities for individual households and to maintain the desired physical character of existing neighborhood and developing areas. This development would not in any way maintain the physical character of the existing neighborhood, which is single-family residences on unusually large lots. A much more appropriate zoning of this area would be R1, which would help maintain the physical character of the neighborhood. All 12.4 acres of the proposed development currently is green space, which is a quality highly desired by cities all across the country, including Independence. The city's Parks and Rec Master Plan calls for the creation and maintenance of new and existing parks. This property has been like a park that supports a myriad of animal and plant life that contributes to a high quality of livability for the residents of Independence, especially those that live in the area, and it costs the city nothing. The Parks and Rec Master Plan tries to promote green space by building and maintaining parks at considerable expense to taxpayers. The value of green space is not diminished just because it is not part of a city park. This area is a valuable hidden jewel. The small size of the apartments, my information says 925 square feet, and the lack of basements that provide life-saving protection from tornadoes keeps the building costs to a minimum with corresponding low rents. This will allow those with Section 8 vouchers to become tenants, which will decrease all property values in the neighborhood, which will then increase housing instability. The citywide housing study identifies continuing efforts to promote neighborhood stability by reducing out-of-town landlords as a key tactic to address its housing needs and goals. The Independence for All strategic plan also cites neighborhood stability as an objective to create a good quality of life here. There are many areas near Centerpoint and Children's Mercy's hospitals that are not only well-suited but also complementary to this type of development and already comply with the Unified Development Code zoning regulations. The Independence for All strategic plan and Imagine Independence, the Comprehensive Plan 2040, both repeatedly cite livability as a very important goal to achieve a good quality of life for all. In fact, Imagine Independence says on page 37, and I quote, "The character of existing neighborhoods should be protected when new development is proposed in order to preserve the quality of life for existing residents. This development will not preserve our quality of life." The proposed zoning changes goes against the text and spirit of 5 city plans. The guiding principle of all these plans is to promote quality of life and to not destroy the good things that already exist. Allowing such unsightly high-density housing would turn this jewel of highly valued green space into a lump of coal. If the city's visions, plans, and ordinances are to be respected, this zoning change should not be approved. Otherwise, these plans just become worthless pipe dreams like those from the Community Development Department in 2001 that would have put a section of the Queen City of Trails system through this very same property, which would have been a perfect addition to the area. Again, I quote from the Imagine Independence, the Comprehensive Plan 2040. "The character of existing neighborhoods should be protected when new development is proposed in order to preserve the quality of life for existing residents. I urge you, do not approve this zoning change." Thank you.
Thank you. Next, who would like to go next? Just remember to state your name and address for us, please.
Mike Freeland, 1226 East 25th Street South, Independence, Missouri, 64055. I've got some handouts, if I could come up and hand to the Planning Commission, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. Oh, you did come prepared.
Madam Chair, can we just make sure that that document gets entered into the record as part of the
Yes.
record.
What Mr. Freeland is handing us is a letter and photographs of the area.
Yeah, I would like to start with the photographs. Actually, I'd like to add some too, that there's a lot of areas in Independence that are landlocked like this. And I know there's a 200-foot notification. I just found out about this recently, and it was because they added the property. And because all that land was landlocked, very few homeowners even knew about it. I had to alert some of our neighbors. And Chairman, you asked if I was for, early, or against. I'm still undetermined because I'm still learning all the information about it. And so our property is the closest, my residence that I've lived there since 1995, I am the closest house to this property that's not burned down, or that our family will still be living here. So the fact that I just found out about this a few weeks ago was a little upsetting, but I understand there's landlocked, and as far as I can tell, the McVee project, you guys have followed everything the city's required. I met with Rick Auroras last week on Thursday night. Ashley invited me to her property out on 24, and so I'm just trying to sorry, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I'm trying to soak all this in and be like, okay, what am I missing? On the first three photographs, this is the, Ashley, you said that I asked about the watershed, because there's a tree line that there's a natural spring back there, and so there's overgrown, everything from poison ivy, ingrown trees, it just holds the water. And you said that you would remove your property or your project would remove all of the watershed in there. Yes, sir.
So let's do the presentation first, and then they'll get a chance to answer all the questions if that's
So
okay.
that's my question, because there's actually a section that I circled on the second photograph that's not on their own property, that's behind my property, that we can't maintain control of because it's overgrown, and it just retains the water. So that's my first question, is just basically I've just got some concerns. I've got two concerns and one major disappointment, just to list, and most of it's with the city, and it's not this current city planning commission. I don't think there's really anybody from the city that's been here for 27 years when I've been fighting these water issues. But the amount of water volume that comes from behind the new McBee's car wash through the fields behind to my house at 1226 East 25th Street has been an issue the entire time I've owned my home. I purchased it in 1995. And the first time I even knew the car wash was coming in was it got way worse in May. We had this huge 5-foot flood of water, which you can see, these were from previous, every time it rains, and the city always tells me, oh, it's a 100-year flood. Didn't you see Channel 4? So I'm just kind of very jaded at this point, and I'm going to get through my presentation as quick as I can, but there's a natural spring and a huge watershed behind with groves, trees, in a straight line. So I'm just very concerned that this is not going to get cleaned up. I know there's a retention pond proposed, and that would be great, but there's a huge problem right now that this letter is from 1998 saying, hey, yes, we know that there's a huge problem, and previous people, John Powell, Howard Penrod, Stuart Borders, they always just said, vote for the sales tax improvement, vote for the street improvements, we'll get you on the list. And so it's I'm now 50 next year, and I bought the house when I was 21. I'm I don't know if it's going to happen before I die, but if this comes in and they don't address the current issues, I'm going to get flooded. And that's where it's a major, major upsetting point for me. Now, I have gotten through to Councilman Mike Steinmeier. He actually has, on the capital improvements program, 25th and Woodbury is listed. It's I can't believe we're actually listed on the piece of paper. It's I'm just blown away, because I've been asking for 27 years to please just show me a board or a piece of paper that we're actually listed, because right here is for $15,000 we could replace the pipe in 1997. Now it's on the city budget for $470,000. I replaced my driveway in 1997 after the famous Chiefs game with 7 inches of rain. My neighbor Ken came in and I had a foot of water in my house. So I've replaced my driveway, I've replaced the pipe underneath. So part of it too is they are going to gain an easement access to tie into the existing water lines, or the existing water drainage. The problem is right here it says Located in the Cracker Neck Creek watershed, this neighborhood project will address the lack of storm drainage facilities. Val Gross is not here tonight. He didn't even know about the project. Apparently one of his grandparents or something put in a water pipe or water, I don't know. They made their own drainage system in the 60s because the city wouldn't fix it in the 60s. So they waited till 501, way before I was born. But anyway, as you can see from these pictures, like this is 25th Street. Like this is our street. And I've been dealing with this. Fortunately, we have not had water in my house since 2002 when we did all this work. But now it's like, hey, let's build 65 spots. And we're going to, as soon as they started doing construction, this huge muddy river. Now, I emailed Mike Steinmeier. He emailed somebody from the city. He sent a message to you guys. And I guess there was some screening or something that wasn't up. And it actually rained a lot since then, too. And I haven't seen the same exaggeration. So that's just like, according to Rick, I met with Rick Aurora on Friday. And he said that the PUD can pass. But even if it does pass, there can be certain conditions that have to be met. And my condition is, please don't flood my house. So that is the first thing, and I'll try to be really quick here. Sorry, I've got my notes. That's my first major concern is the watershed. The number two thing is just basically the existing water drainage is a huge problem. I already addressed that. You can see it's a problem, but it's on the planning budget, the capital improvements program. So please don't cut it in the future. I'm going to beg the city council to, like, please, even if it gets done by 2027, we'll throw a big party and the street will get fixed. The last thing is just basically, it's not as much of a concern, but it's a disappointment that Jim mentioned as well too. Stewart Borders helped with when we got the city to vacate a road access that basically my driveway sat on this road access, and it was a mistake when my house was built in the early 80s that I had no control over, the city had no control over, but the city council in 2002 did vacate that portion of the city. But there was an easement placed on my driveway, which is 6 feet from my house, that basically said that this Queen City of Trails could come through it. So in 2002, my daughter was born. I told her, hey, there's going to be a bike trail or a walking trail potentially come through. And I was really excited about that. She just moved to Florida last week for college. So once again, I'm kind of just jaded by the city. Like, please help me. Please help me have faith in the city that, you know, if these new projects come in, that they can address their water issues and their inherent issues, but they're also going to fix ours at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who would like to be next? Yeah, and then make sure. They're going to get the same set, correct?
No, they're not the same set.
I see.
Oh, yeah, they're all the same set. You're all getting the same.
Okay, then remember to state your name and your address.
My name is Ken Tompkins, and I live at 1227 East 25th Street South, across the street from Mike. And let me get my notes here. And I have more concerns than allowed, probably, but I'm going to try and hit most of the dire and critical issues first. The first is the water issues that flood our streets and homes. The city has been telling the residences in the neighborhood of 25th and Woodbury for over a quarter century there is an issue with the storm drains that we are aware of. That's not a question of if there are existing water issues. It's bad. My driveway floods, you can see by the pictures. My basement floods, my backyard floods, and it's not just once or twice every 10 or 12 years that this happens. But the water comes from these fields of grass and dirt whenever it rains. Now this new development wants to take away the grass, dirt, farmland, and trees in favor of concrete, parking lots, streets, roofs, and gutters. A holding area for the new development is critical, but it is also a failure currently, with not development and these proposed changes have to take in an account for failed drainage and pipes already, and I know this is going to compound the issues in our neighborhood that I have witnessed as a resident for the last 35 years. The second of the problems, yes, the water issues affect our homes, but the fatalities on 23rd Street are a matter of life and death. I worry every time my wife goes to turn onto 23rd Street from Kings Highway that she will be safe. 23rd has had the most fatalities and accidents of anywhere in Independence. A motorist was just killed on 23rd and Pearl 10 days ago. Another fatality occurred at 23rd and Kings Highway, Christmas of 2020. The 2 commercial properties that the McBees are selling next to the McBee Car Wash have already been turned down by Rick Aurora for most uses, including fast food or anything with traffic volume. 23rd is too overloaded by the city's account. Adding all the seniors' housing means additional trash trucks, coming and going of residents, mailman, Amazon, UPS, FedEx deliveries, way more traffic than his 55-plus living quarters. And I don't know about you, but I don't know too many families in this generation at 55 and plus that only have 1 car. I'm sorry, but most of us work even at 55 and older until we get to the age of retirement, and we have 2 cars for that purpose. So that just adds to the traffic. The Planning Commission and City Council recently turned down a senior housing proposal on Lee Summit Road across from Glendale Elementary that would have been a much better spot for senior housing than this proposed plan. If that project was turned down, I don't see how you can approve this location. And the final concern of taking the property owners at their word, this hasn't gone well for us, trusting the city so far of a neglect of our water issues. They mailed a letter to the residences within 200 feet to the proposed project and invited me to their place of business last Thursday evening for a public meeting at 1203 East US Highway 24. I asked, what if you sell the property and the new owners want to allow all ages and not just 55 and over? They said, trust us, we are not planning to sell. I expressed concerns that they would come back to the city in the future and ask for additions of changes. They said, trust us, we just want 55 and older only. I expressed concern for the upkeep of their maintenance-free properties for the city and future residents. They said, trust us. We want the properties to hold their value. I can't trust the maintenance condition of the car wash because it is currently under construction. But looking at their neglected maintenance at their commercial property at 1203 East 24 Highway, I worry their word may only hold value through the approval process. And I'll give another set of pictures I'll give you on my way out. And that's the pictures of their property and how low down it looks compared to what they want to do to this one.
My name's Danny Solons. I live at 1305 South Kings Highway. South Kings Highway. I've lived there on Kings Highway for 37 years. I've watched the traffic go up and up and up. I've witnessed these wrecks that he was talking about. This land that they want to develop borders my north and my east, all the way back and all the way to the side. I don't want to stare at them. I don't want to look at a complex like that the rest of my life. I'm raising 2 grandsons. I'm 62. 55 and older means nothing. I'm a heathen. I like partying and having fun. Just because 55 up, that's a smoke screen. The traffic study that was done back during the pandemic. Nobody was driving in. I could pull out on 23rd Street and not even look either way going to work. Nobody was on it. It's different now. The school's open. They changed the zoning where they got to drive. If you're within 1.5 miles from school, you have to walk. I could not, I'm 2/10 away from my grandson, have to walk to Bridger. And I want him to go down 23rd Street and all this more traffic coming through there? No. That's all I got to say.
My name is Cassie Paulo, and I live at 2410 Lee Summit Road next to my dad. I rent from my parents. Jim spoke. Cassie. Cassy. I basically just want to kind of support what everyone else has said about opposing the project, but I do want to, I want to make a couple of notes. One thing the developer mentioned was that this is within walking distance of Hyvee. Like, the location is ideal for housing. Living where I do, I'd be a hypocrite to like say it's not a wonderful place to live, but I really don't think this development is the answer to that. I really would, if you're going to develop it for residential housing, I think there are a lot better ways to go, even with moderate density. You're really going to lose a lot of that green space. And it's just like there's the runoff issues, the traffic issues. High density, I think, is the thing that connects all of these problems and objections that people are having. So I guess that's my 2 cents, is that yes, it is a good place for housing. I don't think it's a really good place for high density housing of this type. And just to underline the notes about the flooding, my property is basically over a hill from where this is. Like, it's down in a valley, essentially. I get flooding on the other side of the hill, like clear down to Lee Summit Road. You know, there's a long slope. We have a ton of runoff that like runs through my driveway. I can only imagine how much worse that has to be on the other side of it, down where this is going. So I really would urge you to, or urge the developers or the commissioner, whoever's in charge of this, to really take that into account and pay a lot of attention to the watershed. And all of that flooding is happening with a lot of green space that absorbs and like already kind of like helps. Everything that can be done to prevent that in terms of the landscape is already there. You know, so if you tear up all that grass and the trees, it's going to be worse. I think that's all I've got. I also wanted to make a note. I think there's a well on the property, and I don't know if that has been properly dealt with. I think you need to make sure that that is plugged or closed to prevent any kind of runoff or like contaminants from the construction. So just, I'd like to make sure that that's addressed. And that's all I got. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, and I need to get sworn in too.
Oh, you do. Will you please raise your right hand? Do you promise to tell the truth before this commission, and so say, I do?
I do. Toby Sutherland at 821 East Lexington Avenue. I didn't even come for this one. I didn't realize this was requested, but must say I'm literally stunned at the request for this level of density in this area. I echo the traffic concerns. I cannot believe that this level of traffic is in question to be added to the level of traffic that is already there. I'm sure that everybody here has probably stopped at the light at Hyvee, tried to turn into that parking lot. It's a mess as it is. And for a request for that many more vehicles to be added, not only that, but the fact that this is being proposed as phase 1, so assuming that there could be more added in the future, and the concern that if this is allowed, that it will be easier to add more. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else? Okay, will the applicant come back up? And there's a long list.
It was, yes. And I think I have, first of all, I appreciate everybody's comments and concerns. And obviously, there's some animosity that goes a long time prior to us for some flooding and stuff. But I'll try to touch on everything that I know that they said that our project is 48% green space. So if you look up most projects and what the green space is, so we're 48% green space. That's almost, I mean, it's basically half. So there was a mention about, you know, hey, these are on slabs. Every bathroom is a concrete constructed tornado shelter. Yes. Okay. So every bathroom's a concrete constructed tornado shelter for life safety. There's sprinkler systems in here. The adult talking about needs, when they were talking about city, requirements, codes, et cetera, and what the city needs to do. 55 and over is the fastest growing percentage in housing needs. So the fit is correct, is right, complementary to the existing businesses. Talking about the views, like aesthetically, it's on slab. It's not a 2-story, it's not a 3-story, it's not a high rise. It's a 1-level, 0 entry, ease access buildings. So the buffers that we're putting around the existing trees, they probably won't even see it. I mean, maybe a rooftop barely. I mean, it's a 1-level building. You've seen the elevation. So as far as property values go, it's like every time I come in and something new is getting built, I mean, I could sit here and talk for 2 hours with data if you wanted to hear what new construction, vertical construction does for an area. Now, I just wanted to say, like, that water, the pictures of this gentleman over here, that is, a problem that's been here before me, but I will be glad to work with the city in any way we can. I know we have dry detentions and detentions to mitigate that water. I wasn't aware of what happened previous years. I mean, I knew Alan Hill, who owned it. I knew all different kinds of projects that tried to happen and got turned down. But I'll be glad that, we have the equipment there on my site. Now, obviously, if the city wants to improve something down, but my understanding is there's 2 different storms systems, and the one we're tying into is they've done all the engineering. It's correct to handle with the dry detentions. We will actually mitigate any water coming off there, not add to their problem, which I can very much understand their concern looking at the pictures. If that was my house and I was there, absolutely. I mean, that's not my fight necessarily with the city. And I mean, they're obviously animated and upset with that. But everything on our project, we've taken care of all that. And so I just wanted to touch on that, obviously. I think that's pretty much every note I had. If I missed anything, Ashley?
Can you answer, is there a well?
I'm sorry?
Is there a well that has been addressed, or?
Is there a will or a well on the property or something like that?
I think there was a cistern, but it's been filled in.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that, but yeah, so.
Thank you.
Don't sit down yet. One question here, like they did, and it's happened to the other one. They said Section 8 people coming in. I know it probably won't come in, but are we going to have what do we call it, something put on the land that says they got to be at least 55 and older to rent there? Is that something that's restrictions put on?
I thought the city does that, right? That's what we ran it through as. That's a restriction.
Okay, so that will be on the land?
Yes.
Okay. My next question is going to be follow-up to that. So say grandma wants to rent it, and then their 18-year-old grandson or something moves in. What's going to happen in that scenario?
Well, that's a question. So he can't be there on his own. So if grandma didn't stay there, he would have to leave. Now, we couldn't discriminate to who she has live with her. Okay. If she's raising her grandchildren, right. That's federal. I could not discriminate and say, you can't have your grandchild live with you. But if we had problems with them, then we would address it. We also, one other thing I didn't fail to mention is this project will have a full-time on-site manager. So that's not something that we're running. I mean, that's the number of units justifies a full-time maintenance staff and project manager. We're using, our original plan was obviously to use the existing building as the maintenance, which is still there, and then the house that burnt down was where there'll be a new center for everybody, which will be a 0 entry center now.
Okay.
But so.
I'd like to know, was the traffic study done in June of 2020?
Actually, thank you so much for bringing that up. I did miss that point. So the traffic study was done in 2020 and then redone on July 13th, 2022. So Trans Systems completed the previous approved traffic study for the development of the June 2020 and issued the most recent trip generation comparison on July 13th, 2022. The increase was showing a 4%. out of ours. And when the last gentleman that spoke about the light and getting in and out of Hyvee, that's one of 4. So what, I don't know if he realizes, but there's 2 other new entrances plus that other 2 existing. Just so everybody's aware, there'll be 4 entrances.
Can you explain again where those are?
So the furthest one west would be Hayden, right there, directly south of Hayden Street.
Okay.
And then the next one would be directly across from, I can't read that street.
You're fine.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So he got the Hayden Street on the very west, and then the car wash in lot 2 and 3, which are zoned for commercial use, they're still vacant now, but that will have its own entrance for that northern part of the development. The secondary entrance to the neighborhood is right there in between Discount Tire and the little white house that's currently standing. That will be
a parking
widened.
lot, which will be widened into a parking lot and widened street.
Yeah, the little white house is what he's saying will be a parking lot in conjunction with the car wash, but then that street alone will be widened and allow for access to this subdivision. And then, as I think we've already mentioned, there's the 4th point would then be the Hyvee traffic lights that will be able to cross over. That will stay open.
Which
These are all
actually-
private drives, correct?
Say that again?
They're all private drives?
The Hyvee is yes.
No, I meant even the other streets, or the city got to maintain them?
The city will maintain the primary, which I don't know why you should have had this.
It'd be
But Hayden Street
Uh-huh,
down to where it starts into the private.
okay.
So the very furthest west, which there's actually 5, because I forgot about that one, number 4, which that ain't a way you'd like to take, because you'd have to
You
cut
need,
across.
you need to make sure you're
Yeah,
talking.
there's
about-
actually 5 entrances now, because we're adding 1, 2, 3, and there's 2 that you could use. Now, the 5th would be if you coming through the parking lot, you could come over and hit another stoplight right here.
Right.
So,
Okay.
correct? Am I correct on
Yeah.
saying that, right?
Thank you, that helps me visualize that better. Does anybody else have any questions real quick before?
I guess my only, sorry, Steve.
Go
My
ahead.
only other comment would be, I know people constantly were just saying, and I hear their concerns about the density of the land, the 12 acres. And in most cities, in your comprehensive plan, you're going to see commercial along your main thoroughfare like 23rd Street, then followed by multi-housing to act as a buffer in between of those single-family homes. So that's what we're trying to do here. There's already some multi-family housing to the west across from Kings Highway. So it's starting to look that way, but this would serve as a buffer in between single-family homes.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Are there any other questions before we?
Staff, what happened with missing with the capital improvement projects? You said there was none in this area? It looks like there is.
Yeah, I was incorrect.
Okay.
It was not.
So do we need to go back and revisit with capital improvement projects with the stormwater water people to maybe see if we can get this boosted up at the same time we have people there digging? Is that possible? Okay. So we need to bring them in then, probably in this project? I mean, to my knowledge, I thought when we had projects like this, you all brought everybody in at one time and everybody talked at a round table and got all these sort of answers out. Is that not correct?
I don't know what year that is on the capital improvement plan. It is not, it's not unlikely that projects like this, sometimes they will expedite it, but I can't say that for sure.
Right, you can't, I know it's not probably approved in the budget for this year, but I mean, there's always something we can go back and look at, but maybe we need to go to the correct people and see what's happening, because like I say, when this project was brought forward, that should have been mentioned at that time, when it was brought forward, what, 2 years ago maybe? I don't know how long ago you guys brought this up. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, we've been working on it for some months here, not that that really matters to most. I did want to touch on the 25th Street issues, because Steve did, but so as far as, all of its green space right now, and then we're going to be putting concrete and buildings on top of that, there will be sewer inlets throughout the subdivision. So we're hoping, as you might know, with all of that, that'll catch all the water before draining south. And then on 25th Street, and the engineer might be able to speak a little more on this, there are two connections to the sanitary sewer. There's one that's poor, which is what you've seen the pictures of most. But then there's another connection that is a better connection, which is what we are going to basically connect to and improve and increase that flow.
Okay. Well, I like to hear the city say that too when it comes to time, but they have to figure that out with municipal services.
Would you mind, engineer, I'm sorry, I forgot your name already. Would you mind coming up and letting us ask a couple questions? Do you want to go ahead and ask that again?
No. Oh, no, you go ahead.
Kind of the same question, but what can you do to reassure us that what you're doing won't add? If we can figure out how to fix that, but
So that
you're not going to add.
That parcel on the back, you see that one to the furthest south is a big vacant location. That is a pond which will retain the water and slowly let it out instead of right now it's all just flushing out. So by code, we have to actually go below what's existing. So we cut it like about in half.
Okay.
Because APWA, which is requirement that we have is like, it's a half a CFS per acre. So that's way lower than what's coming off there now. We probably have about 1 to 2 CFS coming off, which is cubic feet per second. So they do have a lot of water coming off right now, but the way this is laid out, it's gonna all collect into a pond and it's gonna go out a little, maybe a 24-inch pipe or a 12-inch orifice. So it's going to slow down back up and just slowly release. Now, I don't know where all their volume's coming from. I can't imagine it's coming from just this property, but this would help.
Okay.
It's like a regional basin kind of scenario.
Now, this is going to be built in first phase, or has it already been built? Or
It will be required to be built in the first.
So it hasn't been
first
built
phase.
yet at all, but you guys did.
We
put
have
down the
we
fencing.
have a sediment basin, which is acting as the same, and it got some of the maintenance. That big gully wash washed it out, and they since went out there and fixed it and made it stronger. So.
Now, is the development responsible for keeping the watershed mowed and all that, or is that city responsibility?
The watershed.
Well, that's you guys building the pond.
You mean the pond?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll be responsible for that. No, that's a private
Okay,
pond.
so it is private, okay.
Now, the city has access to that to inspect.
Right.
So they do have the ability to make sure it's operating correctly.
Okay.
Did you want to respond to that?
I was just going to reiterate what he was talking about, the CFM off of there. So basically by us doing
Thank
the
you.
development, we're actually going to improve all the water that comes off the piece of property that we're here to talk about tonight on the watershed that property itself is putting on to 25th Street. I mean, if it's going to drop, it's a half CFM now is what that mitigate, right? Per acre, but they're probably, we don't know, but speculative, they're probably 1 to 2. So it could be as much as 75% better. Actually, it'll be 150% better if it was dropping to that. Off of our property.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay, thank you. Right. Can they come back up or?
I mean, it's up to the chair to determine what you're going to allow.
I think we probably have enough, and I think that there are those of us who want to ask questions of the city too. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of this hearing. Commissioners, any questions of the city, any discussion?
Okay. Is there any way that we can add to if we approve this, add to the bottom that we have the city look into the stormwater project that's already, can we have that added on to the recommendations, or is that not feasible, or? I like to see the stormwater issue get moved up and getting taken care of. These people have had problems now, it sounds like for 30 years, and I think this should be taken care of.
So you have a statement?
I want to see, can we add that recommendation to the bottom of this if we want to approve it?
I think
I
that
think
has
the
to be
con-
kind of a separate issue,
I
correct?
think the concern is that the developer is not going to have any control over whether or not that gets done and when. I think
Yes.
that's a city council decision.
Yeah.
So you're placing a condition that the developer
Yeah.
may not be able to meet with, beyond their control.
Okay, so this is going to be up to the city council, so we can, well, I mean, can we go with recommendations, so when it goes to the city council, that they look at stepping up the watershed improvement project?
Maybe, well, go ahead.
I mean, separately from this application, you as a planning commission or you as an individual commission member can always make that suggestion to the council. You could even make a motion to make a recommendation to the council as the planning commission to pursue that project.
Okay.
As a different way around that question, is this something, how does the city feel about this? Do you feel good that it will not add to the problem? Do you feel confident that, so the city engineers looked at it and they feel confident?
So one of the things, obviously, if this were to go move forward, all those engineering requirements would have to be met. So
Okay.
it's not really an issue of, are we confident? It has to. So,
Okay.
but again, typically we don't know that until if it does get approved, and that's when we start seeing all those engineering documents come in.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so we're waiting for it to get approved before the city council? Before we
Yes,
vote this?
typically between the preliminary and then the final, that's when they're submitting all their engineering plans, and that's when we actually get to see what it is, the solution is. Obviously, we know there's an issue there. We can see that, and we're aware of that. The city's aware of that. The applicant's aware of that. But again, until typically what happens is once it gets approved, then that's when they start spending the money to do the engineering design. So it's not really an issue of is it or will it, it has to be per
Okay.
our code. So.
Okay. Stay up, and my next question is going to be, we, in the last one on this same type of project, according to a what do they call it?
Traffic study?
Traffic study, that if there's over 1,000 cars, that there should probably be a stoplight added. What do we see in that?
Well, with this, the recommendation for this wasn't a signal. Unfortunately, at this location, because there's already a signal right there by that Hyvee, it would be very unlikely that another signal would ever be approved that close to an existing one.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I like it that they're tying into it, but I'm wondering if we
Yeah.
need to go up to Kings Highway maybe, because I think that they said they have like 1,000 cars. I mean, I don't know if they're turning onto that road or just going to buy it. That's what I didn't know.
Yeah, part of this, the project has been going on for quite a while, and one of the biggest issues has been trying to figure out those additional access points. And from what I understand, the applicant was not able to get access to Kings Highway, and so this was their way of mitigating that, being able to get access to the east.
Okay.
Again, though, I think even Kings Highway is probably too close to that existing signal for MoDOT to approve it. Unfortunately, it is a state route, so I can't really answer that question 100%. But just from the projects that we've seen, the distance there is probably too close. for
Well,
a
I
second
think
signal.
also, since they are going to put in that right turn lane, is that correct? That way it will help some of the easement going into that. I didn't know, was that on the first street or the second street?
That's on Hayden Street.
It's
That's on the first one.
That's
Yeah.
the first one?
Yeah, that was actually part of the two commercial lots and then the
Okay.
car wash site.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of two parts again. Any other questions? If there aren't any, I would entertain a motion
Well, I'm going to make just
or
what
statement. Go ahead.
statement. I think this project is good for this area because it is sort of like landlocked. I know you guys seem to think that it's too dense. It is kind of dense, but we're still looking at, in my opinion, is that it's better than putting apartments, because that seems like what's going in a lot now is apartments. If we can keep them down to single families, even down to one level, I think it's better for this area, in my opinion. If they keep the trees up like they say they're going to do, I think it'd be good. I know you guys have nice lots. You guys got 2 and 4 acre lots. That's really nice. And but you should have the trees there to help block it, the way I see it in the pictures. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. As to the Section 8, I find that kind of hard for them to do that, but it can happen. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, and they can't say it's not going to happen, because you still have people that are going to need help in getting rental assistance. So, in my opinion, I think this is a good project for this area.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve case 22-125-09, rezoning 2350 South Hayden Street with staff recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we are ready for a vote.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
and Chairman McLean.
Yes. Case number 22-125-09, redezoning/PUD 2350 South Hayden Street has passed. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your voice. And maybe we can expedite something to happen. I don't know. It's worth a shot. Okay, next case is case 22-200-08, special use permit for 9304 East US 40 Highway. Staff, will you give a report, please?
Yes, this is case 22-200-08, applicant Cortland Thurman for a special use permit to operate a automotive sales lot. As you can see from the vicinity map, it's where, in the vicinity where 35th Street intersects 40 Highway, not too far down the road from the Dixon Chili area, if you know where that is, just west of Denton Road.
Staff, can we take a quick break, please? I'm so sorry. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Sorry.
Okay with that?
Thank you. We are taking a break at 7:27. Hey. Brian, we're ready when you guys are. Are you ready? All right, we are resuming at 7:29. Sorry, go ahead.
So again, this was a case concerning request for a special use permit for a automotive sales. And real quickly going through a history of the site. Property, except for a little corner of it, has been zoned C2 general commercial throughout its history going back. In May of 2021, the applicant made application to get a special use permit to sell used cars and to rezone the property to C3 service commercial. They were going to do heavy automotive repair as well. Incomplete details of the proposed plan led the Planning Commission to suggest that some additional planning needed to be done with staff and such. So the applicant pulled both cases and agreed to work with staff. And they came back later this spring requesting just the used car sales portion of the application. In April, the Codes Division started a case for vehicle screening and garbage that halted when the special use permit process began. It was restarted in July as a case citing temporary storage of containers, nuisance vehicles, and garbage and fence maintenance issues, and that case is ongoing. The property has been used for storing inoperable vehicles before being acquired by this applicant. The property is never had a business license for heavy automotive repair, and there currently is not a business license for the site. So going through the pictures here, this shows the zoning for the property, as you can see, on this corridor of C2 general commercial that's located on the 40 highway corridor. We'll go through issues with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan actually, when it was passed most recently, focused on pulling back the envisioned commercial areas to be around nodes of major intersections. So this area was actually designated by the plan as possibly going to residential at some point in the future. So the guiding principle that would be most apt to apply to this property is to preserve the integrity of existing neighborhoods and to facilitate the development of connected mixed-use neighborhoods where appropriate. The other plan that's been focused on this corridor was something that Mark, Mid-America Regional Council, did for the 40 highway corridor from Kansas City to Blue Springs, and it was included in that as well, with recommending strengthening of older neighborhoods and established commercial districts that already existed along this part of the corridor. As far as historic and architectural sites, or not architectural, archaeological sites, the property has nothing significant that we're aware of. Public utilities are, of course, available for the property. There's an existing structure there that has those, and of course, it's on the 35th and 40 highway corridor. As far as permits and site improvements, the applicant's not indicating that there'll be any kind of construction activity. However, with the special use permit, exterior improvements required for the use to mitigate the impacts of the new use have been provided. These will include fixing the parking lot, marking the parking spaces, and including van accessible handicap spaces, and providing landscaping where possible. Not a whole lot of opportunity for that, and screening from the adjacent residential to the northeast. Going along with what I was saying about not a lot of possibility for landscaping, the most of the property that's not building is parking and driving surface. They need resurfaced. This will need to be done in a manner addressing any environmental concerns and regulations enforced by, of course, municipal services and the city's environmental divisions. And along those environmental lines, they'll be required to meet any mitigation requirements for leaking fluids from vehicles stored outside or undergoing repair. Municipal Services Environmental Division will also require approved plans to ensure the parking, loading, and storage areas comply with their Chapter 20 of the code. Again, landscaping and screening would be required as a condition of approval. There's not currently any landscaping or solid fencing in the residential buffer, and where the areas are being, cars are being prepared for sale. As far as CIP improvements, if you, the city will be completing the US 40 Highway Complete Streets project, and I believe there's work associated with that actually going on down that corridor now, or at least prep work for that. The project will provide new sidewalk, dedicated bike lane, curb and gutter, push-button pedestrian signals, sidewalk ramps, street lighting improvements, storm water improvements, retaining walls, and street trees on both sides of US 40 Highway. The project will be built in phases. The first phase will construct the north side, and the second phase will be constructed on the south side. The goal is to better serve more transportation users and to provide connections to the current bus transit routes, existing sidewalks to the east. In essence, the transportation system in this area is designated to serve motorized vehicles, and this would expand that to other modes as well. Real quickly, we'll look at the aerial photograph of the area. So as you can see, much of the green space is actually that huge right-of-way that's along 40 Highway. So what little green you have is mostly on that east side abutting that, the residential portion, at least, well, the commercial that's adjacent to the southeast and the residential to the northeast. And just another black and white view of that site. So this gives an idea of the current used car lot map for the corridor, where the existing used car lots are along the corridor. And have some pictures of the property here. This is looking southeast down 40 Highway. This is the property across the street to the south, Ajax Auto. To the northwest, up the hill toward Blue Ridge. This is the 35th Street entrance, blocked off, not accessible right now, but possible accessible rear entrance. This is looking up 35th Street to the west. This is the property north of 35th Street, across the street from the property. A field actually owned by the church here that's to the northeast, just north of 35th Street. And this is that residence that's northeast of the property. You can see the trucks there. That orange truck is the northeast side of the applicant's property. Staff does not recommend approval of this zoning for the following reasons. The US 40 highway corridor already has too high a concentration of used car dealerships. The applicant's narrative describes vehicle panel replacement, water-based painting, and the restoration of inoperative vehicles that requires C3 to permit general automotive repair. Number 3, as this corridor is envisioned by the comprehensive plan to be residential, this property along this corridor is currently concentrated with C2 zonings that are suited for limited automotive businesses. However, if approved, the following conditions should apply. Provide a solid wood screen behind the front building lines for the cars awaiting to be prepared. Provide a landscaped solid fence line per code for the adjacent residential buffer. Provide a more detailed and complete landscaping screening plan. Repave the parking and driving surface, and keep all required licensings up to date. And that concludes my report, and I'm ready to take any questions you may have concerning this.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of staff before we bring up the applicant?
So Brian, this is already zone C2, correct?
That's correct.
And then immediately looks like to me to the west is a residential, or is that split in half, that last picture that you showed with that orange truck or something? That
Well, the residential is to the northeast.
to the northeast. Okay.
Yeah, there's
It's not across the street. Well,
no, it's well, there is across the street as well.
yeah, across the street is residential in the church. I was just wanting to know, was it residential? Is it residential on one side and then?
Yeah, part of that house, the back of that house is actually zone commercial of that residential neighbor. It runs right through the middle of their property. So, but you got residential in the northeast, and then more residential up. You got that field is moderate density residential, and then the church itself, I believe, is R6.
I'm thinking this used to be the old radiator shop. Is that correct? You guys are shaking your head. Okay, now I know which one it is. Okay.
Any other questions of staff? Applicant, would you like to come up, please, and state your name and your address?
Good evening. I'm Cortland Thurman. I live at 14905 Hemlock, Overland Park, Kansas. My father and my brother.
Arnold Thurman, 2013 Red Oak, Burleson, Texas.
Thank you.
And Breck Thurman, 14905 Hemlock as well in Overland Park, Kansas.
Thank you.
If you don't mind if I can come to the, okay. There's a couple of pictures that I have, so you can example what we do this, and you can exactly on what Brian put in the documentation. Brian's been more than helpful, going back and forth, but I guess there's some things that's been left out.
Okay, and I'm going to have you repeat everything you're saying to us when you're over there.
No problems.
Thank you.
We also need to make sure that
Oh.
those end up with Brian over here to get in the record. Yep.
Yes, correct. And then I'll email Brian with the documentations, information, and pictures as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Basically, what we're doing, we're asking for the specialty permit is to do exotic vehicles. If you look on there, the work that we're going to be performing at Midwest Customs is really window tinting, vehicle wraps. The retail side, which is what you see some pictures of the inside of what buildings. There's a prior building that we were in before we moved into this facility. We ended up acquiring or purchasing this property this year. So last year we were just there just to take care of the note. We weren't open for business or anything, so we weren't generating any kind of money at all. So this year, since we were able to buy the property, we're looking to try to get the specialty permit so we can be able to get the building refinanced and use that money to be able to apply towards the improvements that we need to do for the facility. If you see, there's a picture of the facility of the building. The parking lot is going to be blacktopped. It's going to be paved off with the markings. You'll see a fence, so all those cars that you did see, those won't be there, but some of them will be in the back, where it will be in the fenced-in area. So it'll have a clean image and everything like that, but if you see the shop that we were in prior, you can see the kind of image and what kind of scale that we have as far as what kind of vehicles we do in Martin City. We also are doing intoxilants, which is the breathalyzers and everything like that. We've been doing that for over 6-7 years. So we'll reservice, it's called recalibration, I'm sorry, as far as their units. They'll come in once a month and everything like that to get their breathalyzers recalibrated. We have the retail side, which is doing aftermarket wheels, tires, lighting, accessories. The front bay will be doing installations, which is for all of that, which is the intoxilat, which is the grills. Let's say you want some lighting on your vehicle. We'll put that and be able to install that as well, as well as tinting. And also, the special use permit is where we're going to be doing aftermarket cars, which is specialty cars. It's not going to be regular cars like some of the cars that you see in the pictures. Those cars are not going to be there at all. You're going to have exotic muscle cars. You're going to have exotic vehicles, classic cars, vintage muscle cars. So it's something that's going to be totally different than just what they're saying, used auto cars. We're not just doing used auto cars. We're doing actually specialty cars, cars that you can't go out here and find, some things that you have to go on the internet to be able to purchase. So we'll have specialty cars, and they'll be housed on the inside of the building. So we'll have lifts. I mean, we have a couple lifts in there right now, but that's where a lot of the cars will be housed at. So there won't be anything outside, but inside the fence, which won't be an area where you won't be able to see at all. Those are the cars that we were restoring and putting together. The work that will be done in the back side is prepping the vehicles, and when we're referring to prepping is basically doing fenders, putting those on, light body work, nothing heavy or extreme. We will not be doing any painting. We will not have any water-based as far as anything flammable or anything like that. There's no chemicals. We've already contracted with a company to do outsourcing, so they'll provide us with the painting and the and finishing product, and then we'll receive the car back, and that's when we'll do the buffing and putting it all together and things like that. So it's nothing major or anything like that. And then, of course, we're also going to add on to it with vehicle inspections. So people can come in and do their inspections. We can check their vehicles out and everything like that. And that's just light work. And I think my brother or my father may have something to say.
So we've been obviously you can see this is a family business. We've been around and operating locally here in Kansas City for over 20 years. Again, various locations. One was in Martin City, another one in the city. We do know that this property is also has a dual purpose zoning for residential and commercial. Ultimately, as this is basically phase one, just getting this stuff taken care of. Ultimately, we would like to actually add on to it and have a residential like a condo basically built into it as well. So that way it would also fit with the mixed use, multi-purpose, residential and commercial of the area. But again, that's just down the line. That's not anything anytime soon. That's way well down the line. So we just need this to get things cleaned up. Yeah. Oh, that's right. We've done. We've participated in a lot of community events, outreach programs. We have training programs with students, as well as participating in a lot of just like the parades and car shows, stuff like that too. So we do a lot of community involvement as well, to just not just the products here. So we try to make sure that we're within the community as well. So, and then that.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm a little tired. I just drove in from Texas. So, but actually, my name is Ron Thurman, and what it is, I'm planning on doing the landscaping, which will be crepe myrtle red tips around the property, which will add a nice, I'm sorry, excuse me. But it'll be red tip crepe myrtles, and I have also some plans on trying to it can modernize the outside of it. Will be more appealing. In addition to that, I guess maybe Courtney may have mentioned it, but we will also be providing some accessories which will generate taxes, some sales tax for the city. Yeah, okay. And what else can I think of? But those are plans that we have right now. We are not as organized as the last group of people, which was pretty extraneous. But thanks again for your time. And if anybody else have anything you want to add to it, or questions?
Thank you. Does anybody have questions of the applicant?
Okay, according to that picture I see right there, we got a trailer sitting back there, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and according to our codes, we can't have trailers like that sitting around, so is
Correct.
something like that gonna be moved?
That is going to be removed. That area right there, you should not be able to have access to or see. It'll be fenced in. That's where you see two of those poles, because we were starting out with our finishing up far as the poles with the fence.
So you're putting up a privacy fence there?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and that goes around the whole backside, so that's where your car's gonna be in?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
That's where the cars are gonna be inside that fenced-in area?
In that fenced-in area, correct, yes.
Are you gonna use this access road, or you're gonna close it off?
No, we're going to close it off.
Okay. It looks like, now the pictures we saw here, the pictures here on the inside, that's not that place, that's the place you
No,
had.
one of them is that inside of that place, but the one that has the red wall, that's what what it currently looks like on the inside. But the previous pictures that you have, those were the old building we just came from. So if you see real, so that's.
So that one is the inside of it?
That's
right
what
now.
it looks like currently inside, yes.
Okay. But you have not applied for a business license, or?
No, we did last year. What occurred was, we haven't been open over the last two, especially going through the pandemic and everything.
Right.
So we just we were just trying to get the property together. We were on a contract to be able to purchase the property after a year. So we were just trying to kind of wait after that year so we can be able to put our money into it, because we weren't going to get any credit from the owners, previous owners.
Right.
So now that we own it, like I said, we just purchased it in March. We can be able to, with the licenses and everything like that, to be able to operate the business, we can go get the refinance and use that to be able to, money to update the property.
Okay, so basically you guys are just looking for a special use permit to sell cars, but they still need to get a business license through the business part. Okay, so that's all we're looking at, is just a special use to sell cars, but you guys really just want to sell exotic or specialty cars. You're not.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so you're not wanting to sell the potluck cars?
No.
Okay.
That's no.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I want to add one more thing. I don't know if you are familiar with Barrett Jackson or Meekins auction. Well, we preparing cars that will be go through, which means that we will get worldwide recognition. So that means independents will get worldwide recognition because of the type of car we will be restoring. I'm sorry, did I speak well? And then, okay. So I want to just add that other point to it as well.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
so staff, doesn't the retail side of things, like the lighting and the breathalyzer maintenance and things like that, separate itself from a used car lot, considering?
Yeah, that would be another license. Speaking about what they have the zoning to do, as you notice here, they've under their light vehicle prepping, they've got panel replacement. I'd like you to note that one of the reasons we were recommending denial was specifically because of that, because in our definition, that is heavy auto repair. That is not light auto repair. And they would have to change the zoning in order to do the panel replacement.
Can I add to that? Okay, a fender replacement takes no more roughly than 1.5 hours. So that's light work, so it's in and out. And when you have on here, when we say panel replacement, auto alignment, body and paint correction, basically if it's oxidation on your vehicle, we can buff that out. So that's light work. That stuff can be done in less than a couple hours. So it's nothing that's going to be majorly far as taking hours and days or anything like that. But if it is, it's in the inside of the property, but it's not major as far as trying to leave it there and take months, years to do. So it's in and out, pretty much so, is what it is.
I think that our code is that's our code.
The way we're reading the code is that the body and paint correction and the panel replacement would require rezoning and would need another application. We'd have to know about the specifics about the paint correction, but the replacing of the panels definitely would require a C3 zoning.
That's what you were saying.
I have a question with that, but if you replace an alternator, it's the same process. An alternator may take you 30 minutes to an hour. It's the same thing with a panel replacement, fender, hood, a deck lid. That's where I'm kind of lost on.
Yeah, it's our code, so I can't help you with that, but.
We have somebody to do the paint. I'm sorry.
No, all that stuff is all outsourced and everything like that. We're just prepping it, basically. Just like a regular car lot would probably prep their vehicles and everything like that. That's basically what we're doing. So that's why I consider it light work, because, like, again, we're not painting the all over. We're not doing a fender, a blend, or anything like that. That's all outsourced.
Okay.
It's just prepping it to get to them, and then the people that are outsourced as far as doing the work, they're going to be completing the project.
Okay. What is the property being used for currently? Why is there so much on there?
Storage right now.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the property together. We have not been open because of the businesses. The business license and everything like that. And so that's what we're trying to do right now, so we can be able to prepare to get everything in order, so we can be able to get the property refinanced to use that money to be able to get everything together. If you see last year what it took place, the fence did get stolen when we were in the process of putting it up. We have cameras on there right now. Now we had to purchase some more, and just having limited funds, basically, not being open and not generating any kind of income, it was kind of hard, but we wanted to still make sure we can maintain the property as far as paying a note. So that's what we're doing right now. I'm working a second job just to be able to keep things going and floating and things like that until we can get open and everything. But other than that, we have not been there to occupy a business.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we see if there's anybody who'd like to come up and speak? Okay, go ahead and sit down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak for this case? Go ahead. And I know you already spoke, but if you'll restate your name and address, please.
Toby Sutherland, 821 East Lexington Avenue. I also was unaware of this case, but it piques my interest. I know the area. I know a previous owner. I don't know if it was directly the previous owner or not. But if this applicant is approved and carries out business as they state, this would be a major improvement to this property and to the area, and no doubt would generate a high level of income. My other question is for the city. The previous business, Ace Radiator, did do automotive repair there. And so I'm confused as to how this was historically a automotive repair facility. Yes, it was a retail and wholesale radiator shop, but they did also do automotive repair. And so how that was a historically a automotive repair facility and now is not, I'm confused on that.
We'll ask them to clarify.
So that's all for me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for this case? Is there anyone who would like to speak against this case? Hearing none, the public portion of this case is closed. And are there any further questions of the city?
Well, staff, can you answer that question, what he just said?
Yeah, I'll clarify that. It's not a matter of whether automotive repair can occur here, which it can. It's what we define as heavy auto repair by our code would require additional higher zoning of C3, basically things like pulling engines and transmissions and things, heavy work, body
heavy work there,
work,
but
body work, things like that require.
Body work, that's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering, if you're getting to body work, because basically body work has to go with the paint, so the paint goes into, you gotta have the breathing areas and stuff like that, that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about. So if they plan on not doing that, I don't see any problem with them subbing it out that way. I understand where they say a fender only takes about an hour to put on, or an alternator can take 3 hours to put on. I've taken one, but it took me 6 hours to put on.
Well, we, like I said, in the code,
Yeah.
we define that the panel replacement will be
I
a C3 as
understand
well.
that, yeah, so, I mean, that's something that they will probably have to work out, but, I mean, that's just something that's per code, that's what the reason is on that.
I think also we need to remember that this is a special use permit special use permit to allow automotive sales.
Right.
So we're kind of talking about two different things almost, right? Okay.
Okay, my opinion here, I like to say, I mean, I like the idea of a different type of automotive sales. I mean, that is something different, as we don't have anything like that I can see up and down this corridor, because most of them are what I call pot lots. If they're going to do different vehicles, I mean, I think that sounds good to me, because I have not seen anything in this area as to that. There is a place in Blue Springs that does stuff like that, but that does sound good to me on this aspect. Looks like they got the inside all ready to go, so. And if they do the outside work, it sounds good to me.
I think that custom work, of course, has been trending for a while, if you want to use that word. But my concern is that I don't feel like, I think as a business owner, that the business plan is as complete and as well thought out as it should be. But and so to kind of mesh what they want to do with what they've asked the special use permit for, I'm just not comfortable yet. Any more discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Or are you still thinking?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve case number 22-200-08, special use permit for 9340 East US 40 Highway with staff recommendations.
With that, can I add something real quickly? When I
Yes.
was doing the presentation, I left off number 6 of the staff recommendation. It should be on your report. No uses outside of the property C2 zoning shall be allowed. So that should be part of those staff recommendations as well.
Okay.
Which would be the panel replacement part, and what would be normally a C3.
Right.
Yeah.
Those could not be done.
Did we already make a motion, I guess?
Yep. Waiting for a second.
Well, now
Would you like
I have a
to-
question.
Well, you can still ask questions.
You can still ask.
So to the applicant, like, how much does that throw your plan off if you're not able to do the panel replacement due to?
We've closed the,
Yeah, in order to have discussion on the motion, we need a second on the motion, or you could withdraw your motion and ask more questions.
yes.
Withdraw.
I withdraw my motion.
So, question to the applicant. So, because of what city is saying that what you guys are calling light panel replacement, light auto work, they're calling heavy auto work, which means you have to rezone. If you're not able to do that aspect of your business, how much does that affect your plan and business?
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
We'll just outsource it out. If we have to change alternative as far as what we're going to do, we'll do more retail, and that way we can generate some kind of income. But the rest of it, as far as the vehicles and everything like that, we outsource it out. Because I considered that light work, but I guess according to the codes, I guess that's not light work. So I can still, get with the contractors and everything like that and trying to make an agreement as far as them being able to do the contracting work outsourced. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I was just waiting to see if anybody else had any more comments.
Okay, Madam Chair, I should make a motion again.
Yes.
Approve case 22-200-08, special use permit, 9340 East US 40 Highway with staff recommendations.
I second.
Staff are ready for a vote.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
No.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chairman McLean.
No. The vote's for 3 yay and 2 no. Case number 22-200-08, special use permit 9304 East US 40 Highway has passed. Okay. Are you breathing? Just want to know that you guys are breathing.
Hey, Brian, do they want these for records?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just leave them up there on the counter. We'll get them after the
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, our next case, 22-200-09, make sure I'm on, yes, is special use permit 4121 Little Blue Parkway. Staff, will you give a report, please?
Yes, this is an application of, McBee Construction to open a tunnel car wash at 4121 South Little Blue Parkway. As you can see from the vicinity map, this is the northeast quadrant of Little Blue Parkway and I-70. It's in front of the Menards. It's one of the pad sites in front of Menards. The current zoning is a BP PUD. Until when this property was annexed in the city in 1975, the whole area was zoned A1. It was an agricultural use at that time. If you're familiar with it, I think they used to grow soybeans or something in that field there. In 1998, the previous owner decided that he would want to try to tie this property into the Hartman Heritage, and he actually platted a right-of-way that shows up on some of the drawings and rezoned some of the property. He was going to put a hotel in there, if I remember right. That didn't work out. So pieces of it was zoned to commercial for that. And then when Menards came around in, almost 10 years ago now, they rezoned the entire property, and Quick Trip did their own piece to BP PUD, which allowed for the use of the construction of the store itself, along with the pad sites along the front. This is an aerial photograph of the site, the property at this quadrant. You can see the Menards building in the upper right. There's the pad sites along the internal service drive or access drive of Menards. The applicant site is outlined in black. There is currently a Dutch Brothers Coffee drive-through facility being built right next to their property on the south side. On the on the west side of Little Blue Parkway is Hartman Heritage. That building, when originally built, that's in the screen there, was insurance building. It is now owned by the Hyvee organization. This is the surrounding zoning. As you can see, this is property is zoned BP PUD. Across the way, again, we have the Hyvee building that is shown as office. And then further as you go into Hartman Heritage, it does turn into general commercial. Okay, the consistency with the Independence for All strategic plan states that this is consistent with the goal that to increase economic prosperity of the community and meets the strategy to recruit businesses. As far as the comprehensive plan goes, This site, along with other properties in this quadrant, are designated for mixed use by the city's plan. Such areas that feature a variety of uses assorted with both community and regional commercial uses with an emphasis on office and retail dining establishments. There are really no historic or agricultural features with this site. All the utilities are in place as they were constructed with conjunction with Menards activities. The site improvements I'll talk about here in just a minute, along with the drive surface. Environmental, again, when the Menards was constructed, they did provide a certain amount of, actually there's some wetland areas that the Menards provided in the, I believe, southeast corner of the building in that area that they provided. Each of the pad sites are providing their own stormwater detention, so that has not really been an issue. The CIP investments, the city in conjunction with MoDOT has a plan being devised right now, or designed, I guess is the correct term, to make improvements to the Little Blue Parkway and the I-70 interchange, mostly in conjunction with the North Point development, which is 3 or 4 miles north of here on Little Blue Parkway. That's still in the rough draft stages, so there's really nothing that I can tell you directly how it'll be designed. So we'll go here to the, this is a comprehensive plan. Again, shows the mixed use on that corner. And this is a site plan. Excuse me. This building will actually consist of a 6,500 square foot, 150 foot long building which will have an east-west orientation. As you can see, the customers enter on the north side, northeast corner of the site, and go in a slight southwest direction, and then to pay at the toll booth, which is where the cars stacking ends on this drawing here. And then they circle around in a counterclockwise fashion and go in the tunnel, and then come out on the east side of the building, and then they can go into the vacuum area, which is immediately south of the building, or they can exit the site. A feature of this particular version of their car wash is that this does include dog wash, which I don't believe was in any of the others that we did in the city. There are about 20 vacuum spaces on the south side of the building. Here are the building elevations. The top one is kind of the pay booth area, not the pay booth area, but a kind of a part of the main building. And then we have the east elevation, which is the part that you will see from the access drive of Menards. And then the south elevation is on the bottom here. And then the east elevation, excuse me, that's wrong, I'm sorry. The east elevation, I got 2 east elevations on there. My mistake, that is actually the west elevation. I take that back here. Now this is the east elevation. This is where you actually enter the tunnel. That's right? Or is it mine backwards there? I think you got it backwards. Okay, it was the way it originally was then. Okay, sorry about that. These things are a little confusing there. Okay, and then as far as the colors go, here we're looking at the south and west elevations. The color scheme is basically the same as the ones they've used in other locations. It's kind of a blue awning roof look with a combination of gray, whitish masonry over a darker, lower color masonry. Again, this is a west elevation. Here we're looking, that is some of the booth they would drive out through there, if I'm correct there. They would exit the garage. Exit the garage there on the left, and then circle around and eventually go out through the tunnels or the overhang there, exiting the site. This is actually the east and northeast corner. That garage door that you'd see there is where they'd actually enter the tunnel. There's a kind of office area in the front of the building. And this is another picture of how the colors and the color scheme of the location. Okay, here we're looking west into the site from the Menards internal drive. That's one of our little zoning signs there in front. It's not really much to see out there. It's just an open field right now. Here is another picture that shows a reference point of the Blue Ridge Bank off in the distance there. That is the exit lane off of I-70 that you see at the top of the hill. Again, Menards, when they purchased this property, pretty much graded everything out for future construction of pad sites. Okay, here we're looking north up the internal access drive. There is a Wendy's, which is the closest to this business right now. Off in the distance and further down you go and there's Dairy Queen and Black Bear Diner and so forth. The Menards building is to the right. And along with the parking lot here, we're basically looking to the east at the Menards building, and it's their, I believe, their garden center there on the right. And this is the Dutch Brothers Coffee Shop. That's immediately immediately south of this property. Okay, staff does recommend approval of the special use permit with the following conditions. All vacuum bays must be at least 25 feet from the front property line along I-70. Additional landscaping is needed between the southern vacuum row and the south property line and the west property line along Interstate 70. I didn't touch on the traffic issues. There were, the city's traffic engineer did provide an update of the study that was done in conjunction with the Menards. This type of business is not one that is not what you call a destination type of business. People don't generally go from somewhere east where they live to drive over here just to do a car wash. They go here to go to Menards or one of the restaurants, and then they say, oh, there's a car wash. Let's just run through and get it done. And so it's not, you've got a lot of already concentrated traffic on the site from other businesses that are just, they're using the facility. I believe it's around 40%. So the traffic engineer didn't believe that this site would create a traffic issue in and of itself. And the original plan for the Menards took all these pad sites into consideration when it was done, and this would fit generally into that traffic study.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Stuart before we move on? All right, well, the applicant come up. I feel like we've seen you before. You state your name again.
A few times. Ashley Smith, 1203 East US Highway 24, Independence, Missouri, 64050.
Thank you.
So I am asking tonight for the special use permit of McBee's Coffee and Car Wash. As Stuart said, this will be our third within Independence. We currently have about 15 in the works. 2 of them are open in Belton and North Little Rock, Arkansas. So we're hoping to have about 100 of these when we're done. But Independence is our home. As you know, the McBee family spoke earlier tonight. So this business is actually owned by Steve's son, Stephen McBee. So that's my primary function here for them. So I do agree with all the recommendations from staff tonight for the special use permit as far as the 25-foot property setback that they wanted to imply. That would just reduce our number of vacuum stalls from 20 to 18. Nothing that would disrupt our site flow. We're used to a minimum of 11. We typically like to have about 15 per site to keep the flow moving. And then, as I'm sure you might ask, why another car wash? That's always a big question. There are about a handful of car washes within the 5-mile radius of this. However, on Little Blue Parkway exit off I-70, there's really only one super close. That'd be closer to 40 Highway, the larger Go Wash. From there, there's also Charlie's on 40 Highway. So those are the 2 closer ones. And then car washes are, sorry. we'll talk later. And then car washes in general, they're going to use less water than just your average person washing off their car in the driveway, as well as prevent anything from flowing into the city sewer system. Our car wash has a reclaim system that uses less than approximately 1 toilet flush from a residential house, uses less than that per wash of car. So we're hoping to it is crazy to think about. So we're hoping to help the environment by having car washes, actually. And we're advocating for a top-notch wash. So our washes aren't like the others that you might have seen in the area. It's an automatic wash. It has a conveyor belt system, so there are no bumpers to the wash, so you don't have to scuff up your wheels or anything like that. It is actually considered a brushless wash, even though you will see brushes in the tunnel. Those brushes use NASA technology foam material. They're also self-cleaning internally, so as they spin, they clean themselves off. So those are not things that we see in other car washes around here. It's the same system that we have on the other 2 car washes within Independence as well. And then we inspect all cars after the car washes, so our top-notch and customer service is one of our base things that we try to get across. We want to be the Chick-fil-A of car washes, I guess you could say. And then, of course, as mentioned, we do have a slew of amenities. Of course, coffee is in the name. That is drive-through only for this location and all of them. The dog wash will be enclosed to the building. The other 2 locations do have dog washes, but they're actually external. They're not enclosed. That is one of the latest revisions that we've made. It's just safer for animals, safer for families. You don't have to cross the streets and worry about your dog getting out. As well as a towel club and then free vacuum. So I don't want to take too much of your time, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and feel free to have at it about the site plan or so on.
Commissioner Nesbitt.
Oh, yes. My question here is, okay, I see we go in on the right, so I'm looking at it right. So you go in on the right, you turn, come back out, the vacuums will be back up to the left. How do they exit when they get out of the vacuums? They got to come back, or is there another turnaround and coming back now?
So they're just standard parking stalls. They're not angled or anything. So they're just going to back out and then head east.
Head back east. So basically, you got west coming in, east going. So basically, they're fighting in and out to get in.
It's a 2-way, yes, and there will be signage there to basically yield.
Okay.
You can turn for vacuums if you're turning to the right.
This is the first one I've seen of this. That's why I didn't know how your other. Is this exactly the same as the other designs?
The flow of the drives aren't always the same,
Okay.
so it just kind of depends on the lot that we're.
Now, how much parking do you have for the dog wash area?
So typically with the dog wash, most people will already been using they'll go through the wash and then they'll get at the vacuum area and they'll already be doing their car. So they would stay parked to use the dog wash.
So the vacuum stalls are the parking for the dog.
Yes, and there are some standard parking stalls there to the east. There looks like 6 of those. So those would be used for employee parking and then the occasional person who wants to come in for just a dog wash.
Okay, now we're going to go to the major question here. We have 2 more already scheduled in this area going in. Did you already know that?
Yeah, on 39th Street, a little bit north, I think is what you're referring to.
And Independence Center, and then also, that's competition.
Yep.
So now you said a handful. I think last time we counted, was there going to be 8 in the 5-mile radius? How many cars are in the 5-mile radius that you think are going to use this? What is our plan, our business plan?
So I don't have the demographics as far as the amount of neighborhoods in that area, but I do know it only takes about 20 cars to sustain business, to be profitable actually per hour, I should say, 20 hours per hour.
I was told it's 100 cars a day.
It's about 78 vehicles per day, just in general, is the expected with traffic in and out. So it only takes about 20 to actually be profitable. So the
100 a day, not an hour, 100 a day. You saying 20 a day to be profitable? No. 20.
Just 20 a day would cover our bottom costs, our bottom line costs.
It would. But okay.
Yeah. And then the traffic is typically, overall, if you're just looking at your average day, from the previous traffic studies we've ran, it's about 78 cars in and out, or 780 total. Right now, with Belton and North Little Rock, the 2 locations that are up and running, we haven't really hit those numbers. That's something that would be like a crazy Saturday, Sunday, grand opening kind of ordeal.
Well, that's why I read the this traffic study on the one on 23rd Street, and it showed that you guys were going to have 400 cars a day in there. That's what you're anticipating.
Yeah, it's the same traffic code that's used for all automated car wash.
Okay.
Yeah, I think does that answer your question? Or?
Well, I mean, we're all still questioning whether we want another car wash. That's our problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think this is complementary to the businesses around, considering that you've got a whole bunch of restaurants and Menards right there. So it's just, like they said, it's a complementary, convenience style business. People are going to pass by, and it's just approach them.
No, you guys sell it as you want to buy this app, so you're going to sell it that you want to sell the app so people want to come to your location. I know how that works.
The app is free, actually.
Well, I know the app's free, but you got to buy the program. I mean, you probably have a monthly program.
We have single use and we have monthly packages, as most car washes would.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, but that's the big thing. You sell the monthly packages to get them coming.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be drive-by. It's going to be, we want the sustained business to come.
Right.
And since you are going to have 3 in Independence, which I do like, they can go just about anywhere.
Right.
That's your guys' business plan.
Exactly, yes, because we have multiple.
I see it. When you said you're going to have, I only heard you're going to have 30. You're saying you're going to have 300 in the Kansas City area? Or?
So we have 15 in the works. 2 of those are in Independence off 23rd Street, as we saw earlier, and then 24 Highway right by 291. The 15 are spread across right now in Missouri, Tennessee, and Arkansas, primarily Missouri. But we're aiming to have 100 within the next 5 years spread across the Midwest region.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
They keep me busy.
I'd say. Thank you. Any other questions of Ashley while we have her? Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak for this case? Is there anyone here who would like to speak against this case? Hearing none, the public portion of this is closed. Commissioners, I would entertain more questions or a motion.
A question for staff. Did you guys come up with any type of numbers on a car wash that we asked for last time? I don't know if it's too soon to ask that or not.
Why don't we ask that at the end? Because I want to kind of talk about study sessions anyway.
Okay, well, I didn't know if they came up with an answer for that yet or not.
That's true.
Did you guys?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve case 22-200-09, special use permit 4121 Little Blue Parkway for a special use permit to operate a car wash with the 2 recommendations.
2 conditions.
2 conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And staff, we will call for a vote, please.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair McLean.
Yes. Case number 22-200-09, special use permit at 4121 Little Blue
annoying,
Parkway
isn't
has
it?
been approved. Thank you. Good
Getting
luck.
worse, I think.
Next case, 22-810-01, preliminary development plan for 810 East Walnut Street. Staff, will you give a report, please?
Yes, this is a request by Mick Slutter for a preliminary development plan approval for an addition onto it says Apex Community Living Center, but it's more typically known as Carmel Hills Nursing Home. This property is at 810 East Walnut Street, which is really not that far from here. It's about a mile from here or so, a mile and a half. You can see on the screen where it's located. There's a train tracks just on the west side, immediately on the west side of the site. Okay, this property is currently zoned R18 PUD, which is moderate density residential planned unit development. Through 1985, this property was zoned industrial. I think it was M1 at the time, which is a typical for the city. At that time, they tended to zone properties that were along railroad lines to industrial or heavy commercial, with the idea that those would become transportation hubs and freight yards and so forth. And then in 1985, the property was rezoned to multifamily to build this facility. And then and after that, they did a couple of site plans to build out the project in multiple phases. And then in July of 2009, it did receive a final site plan approval, special use permit approval. I can't read that very well here. That was July of 1999. They did receive special use permit approval for a nursing home. And since that time, they've done a couple of site plans to add onto the building. This is the site here. As you can see, it's all in the brown. The area around it is on mostly R12, which is two-family residential. That little purple area to the south of there is actually 3 apartment buildings. That property was never rezoned from industrial to residential to construct those. In the previous to 1980, the city was on a pyramid zoning scheme, I guess you'd call it, where anything that was allowed in single family was allowed in 2-family, anything allowed in 2-family was allowed in 3-family, and then anything in multifamily was allowed in commercial and so forth. They called that a pyramid zoning. So if you had industrial property, you could build basically anything you wanted in it, and that's why that was built in that. That was changed in 1980. If you've been around, you've seen various properties, especially around the older parts of the city. You've got apartments and commercial and industrial zones, things like that. That's kind of a holdover from that. Again, East Walnut is on the south side of the project, and Lexington is on the north side. Okay, this plan has some characteristics which are consistent with the comprehensive plan and the city's Independence for All strategic plan. Basically, the strategic plan recommends that we ensure that land use policies and housing and strategic strategies incorporate community for all ages best practices. And what they are seeking to do, we believe, fits into that plan. And then the site, along with other properties in the neighborhood, are designated residential neighborhoods by the plan. Such areas would feature a variety of single-family detached homes, attached single-family homes, townhomes, and multifamily dwellings. The plan also mentions such residential uses that would support sites of local commercial and personal service activities where appropriate. We believe that this is the case here. There's no historic or architectural sites. Public utilities are available to the site already. We'll go over the site improvements and the parking and so forth. They did do a drainage study in conjunction with their preliminary development plan, and it is included with your packet. Landscaping and screening we're going to talk about, and there is no capital improvement projects planned for this area. Okay, this is a comprehensive plan. Again, it shows residential neighborhood for this entire area. No changes in the color. This is the aerial site plan provided by the applicant. As you can see, it's a loop road that goes north of Walnut, just east of the railroad tracks, which is at the lower left part of the screen. And then there's a circle drive that completely incorporates the complex with parking in various locations around the building. I think I mentioned in the staff report, it sort of looks like an asterisk, which it sort of does. And the applicant seeks to build the addition on the right side of that building, in that open area between the building complex and the eastern drive and parking area. It's a residential property all around this site, mostly single-family homes. Those apartments that we mentioned before down at the bottom, you can see there's 3 buildings there with a tree screening around it, and the parking lot to the north of that. This is the area on the east side of the site where the building addition will be. It is in that rectangle that will have access, patient access on the south side of the building. They do plan on adding some additional parking in this area and kind of upgrading the current parking with ADA and all that sort of thing. This is the building elevations. It'll be essentially the same as what's out there now. This shows the kind of the current zone with the entranceways having the double gable system, which is on the lower portion. Same materials, same roofing materials, architecturally designed, so forth. Okay, here we're in the parking lot, looking north into the area. The building will fit right in there at the end of this building, into that open field. Here's another picture that shows, again, the field where the building will be added onto. And this here, we're looking west down the existing parking lot drive that goes around the building. The times that I've been out there, this is about the typical parking situation. There's just not a lot of cars out there because of the patient resident circumstances. And this is the existing entranceway that's closest to where the new building will be. Similar design, again, the sort of the double gable look. I don't know what you really call that, but that's what I'll call it. The same roof materials and siding and wainscot and so forth. And here we're looking to the northeast. This is the loop road that circles. You can see where the tree line is. The road is the drive is in front of, on this side of the tree line, and it circles back to the northwest and then on the north side of the building. A typical circle drive. And this is the area that is between the drive and the residential properties to the east, which really is the closest part to where the people will be parking that will be using the new facility. I've been out there and there's not really any fencing along there. There's a good stand of landscaping that needs to be upgraded. In some cases, some fencing put in perhaps. I'm not a fan of cutting down all the trees, just put in some fencing, but we'll have to work with the applicant on beefing up this landscaped area. Staff does recommend approval of this preliminary development plan with the following conditions. The use of the proposed addition for dialysis patients that are not residents of this facility is acceptable. They did mention early on in this application about 50% or so of the patients will be on site, but then the other 50% will be off-site patients. Then additional screening buffering is needed along the east end of the parking of the property, which may include fencing and or other additional plantings. The applicant shall work with the city staff to finalize a landscaping plan for additional buffering on this end of the site. And then their ADA parking spaces throughout the property needs to be updated. They don't have the current signage, and much of the marking on the pavement is worn off.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions of staff before we ask the applicant to come forward? Will the applicant come forward, please? I need to swear you in. Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the whole truth before this commission? Say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address, please.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Mick Slutter. I'm with Renaissance Infrastructure Consulting. We're the civil engineer, surveyor, landscape architects for the project.
Mr. Slutter, could you make sure you speak into the microphone a little bit?
Yeah, with me tonight is Jeff Stockman with ACI Bolin. He's the architect for the project. There's really not a whole lot more to add to staff's report. I think they did a great job. And we are in agreement to the stipulations that staff has provided in the staff report. So we're here to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have questions of No? We don't have any questions, so thank you.
Great.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak for this case? Is there anyone here who would like to speak against this case? Yes. And again, if you'll state your name and address.
Once again, Toby Sutherland.
Thank you.
821 East Lexington Avenue. This is the case that I was made aware of that I came for. So my residence borders the north side of the property, which I have to note that the pictures that were taken are of just about the only well-maintained portions of this property. I'm on the north side, which will be behind their facility, which is nearly all. So their north property line is nearly all overgrown, except for my portion, which I have taken out some of their overgrowth just to help my own view. So my understanding is that this used to be, and so my question for this committee is, was this originally approved as, and this goes back to the 90s, was this originally approved as a senior care facility for which I know that it, or maybe it was a misconception of mine, that was their previous business model, which is now transitioned to rehabilitation, as admitted by manager, this local management that I spoke to just a couple of months ago. And now we're wanting to transition or add to that business model a dialysis center. So this is right in the middle of a residential area. So do we want to maintain the tenor of this neighborhood, which was, years ago approved as a senior care facility in the middle of this residential neighborhood, to now include more of a medical facility in the middle of this residential neighborhood? My concern is with traffic, which I must admit added traffic would pale in comparison to the added traffic of the previous cases, but nonetheless would add to traffic on Walnut. A bridge on Lexington over the railroad tracks has been closed, so that no doubt adds to the traffic on Walnut, and by the city's own admission outside of here, but by emails to me, that project will likely take years to reopen Lexington. So you're bringing extra traffic in through Walnut, which already has a few apartment complexes on it. I'm questioning why in this area. Now, the pictures show that it appears this site was prepared for an addition to the building. It's nearly obvious. But for this purpose, that's what I'm questioning. When there are other sites, other buildings sitting vacant that are intended for medical office space, such as in the Center Point area, the East Valley View Parkway area, the South Arrowhead Drive area. I think those areas would be much better suited for this type of facility. And I believe this was already answered, concern whether the parking and driveway footprint would be sufficient and remain sufficient for their customer base, their added customer base. And I touched on it a little bit earlier, but there's currently a lack of maintenance. I looked just before coming here, and I would challenge all of you to drive through the parking lot of this facility and just ask yourself, would I appreciate living next to this facility? I told the management just a couple months ago, they're not good neighbors. What I perceive as employees, which they made aware to me since their business model has changed, the age of their customer, I say customer base has come down to mid-40s. So what I perceive as employees fighting, may be some of the residents fighting, but it's not infrequent to hear from the neighboring houses cussing, arguing from the facility. Just in a conversation I had with the management there just a couple months ago, it was just days previous to that at, I think it was 5:50 in the morning while I was getting ready for work, heard somebody yelling behind their facility, somebody that apparently was supposed to be there. There's also, I don't think it's any secret, some apparently homeless in the area that frequently walk down Lexington and Walnut. And my property is one of the two that I'm aware of properties on their north side that border to their north. Well, I shouldn't even say that. Mine is the only residence on the north side without a fence. The other property on the north side, they actually own, that comes out on Lexington, which I'd be concerned with their future desire to put a driveway in through there. But we get a lot of foot traffic between, and I say unwanted foot traffic between Lexington to Walnut. They cut through our properties to get from the convenience store on Truman Road to apparently the neighborhoods south of Walnut. I've approached the local management about security, about fencing. They show no desire to take any steps to. I let them know that it wasn't too long ago that I had to call the police on somebody apparently hallucinating, walking down my driveway onto their property. Employees saw them, kind of laughed at them. They walked around to the other side to that be the west side of their property where apparently patients were sitting. And this was somebody hallucinating, yelling, arguing with themselves. I don't know what their intent was, called the police. That was of little concern to the management there. That's I hate to say that in this kind of setting, but that's kind of a neighbor that we have. And to add a business, add on to this business.
That's where I needed to
My
get
concern.
back to full circle. So as much as we would love to help you with, some of those things that you can always, call the city on, we can't do anything about those, but
My concern is adding,
I understand.
whether it's under that local management, whether it's being leased out to someone to run, but it's we have a neighbor in the area that is not taking care of what they have now, and we're wanting to add on to that.
Okay. Let's get the applicant back up here, and can you answer some of those questions for us? Are you going to talk?
Yeah.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth before this commission? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you. State your name and address.
Jeff Stockman, 701 Frank Street, Edgerton, Missouri.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, the people you have here tonight are the design team, and the owner's not here. And so I can't really speak to the management practices.
Could you get a little closer to the microphone there?
I can't speak to the management practices of the facility that's there. I can't speak to, what they intend to do going forward, or if there's changes with the current owners of the facility versus who was there before. But I will just note that, if you're concerned about additional people coming to the site based on the addition, if you look at the numbers of, I think the owner told us 78 people a day, 50% of which are coming from inside the facility, so half of that coming from outside. If you just divide that up over their business hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the dialysis center, that's about 3 extra people an hour. So I don't think the impact of the facility usage is going to be felt as a added burden to what's there. So, Mick, did you?
Yeah, I concur with that. I mean, they're going to have, like Jeff was saying, about 30 to 35 cars a day. They operate in normal business hours during the day. So like Jeff was saying, like a couple of cars an hour will be coming to this site.
How long does it take to get dialysis? Are they in there for 4 hours or 2 hours or what?
I think it probably depends on the level of treatment. I think it can be as quick as an hour up to 3 or so hours.
Yeah, this level. Any commissioners, any questions of the applicants? Nope. Okay, thank you.
If the commission's concerned, I mean, we could expand upon that condition to where they improve the landscaping on the north side of the site, in addition to making any improvements on the east side of the site, with fencing, if there's not any fencing there, and other landscaping as such.
Okay.
Stuart, he brought up a good question. Now, don't they have a special permit for nursing homes? Is that what they have right now?
Well, I did not check their business license. I assume it's been in place for, 35 years or whatever. I assume that it was for a nursing home, and we have no knowledge that it hasn't changed from a nursing home to something else. So it's up to date. I don't know the details of what their business model, how their business model has changed.
Okay. I mean, he brought up a good point that this was supposedly a nursing home for the elderly, and now they're having younger applicants there.
We could check into that. Like I said, the special use permit that was issued was for a nursing home.
And basically, we're just deciding whether they can go ahead and add on to the building right now.
That's
what we're
correct.
talking about. Okay.
And a nursing home isn't just for old people, so we're clear. Okay, I'm going to close this portion of the public hearing. Any more discussion, or I'd entertain a motion?
I moved, Madam Chair. Sorry, I'm tired.
I know you are.
Madam Chair, I move to approve case 22-810-01, preliminary development plan for 810 East Walnut Street with the three staff recommendations as well as additional landscaping on the south side, did you say?
North.
On the north side. So there's 4 recommendations now.
Or we could just add it to number 2.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Staff, we're ready for the vote.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair McLean.
Yes. Case number 22-810-01, preliminary development plan for 810 East Walnut Street has passed. Thank you. Okay, roundtable. Because we've been here so long, I'm not going to do what we were going to do, which is just kind of throw some items out that, because we've talked about emailing each other about things that we kind of want to have a study session on. So if you want to do like a quick throw out, we can. The things I wrote down were used car lots, car washes. One of the hot buttons that I think is coming up that.
Can we make a request, or what do they call it, moratorium, that basically we don't want any new used car lots or anymore for the next 6 or 8 months until we see how the economy goes? Is that something that can be done?
I mean, the city council could do that, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if we could do that.
No.
I would add that, per the direction of City Manager's Office, that we are currently looking at some ordinance changes that would limit used car lots.
Oh, okay.
We don't have that ordinance ready to really discuss right now, but we are looking at different options on how to do that.
Okay, well, I just thought that was something that could be brought up, that way we would postpone anybody trying to get applications for them if we did something like that. That way, we wouldn't be wasting your time and our time and stuff like this.
I think that would have to be from council as some sort of, putting some kind of moratorium in place, if that were to be the case, to temporarily, maybe until the, preparation of an ordinance. But
It's called an administrative delay resolution. The city council could adopt that, and it basically just puts applications on hold while you review.
So we don't have to recommend that, somebody, okay.
No. I mean, you can make a motion to recommend it, but it's ultimately going to be a city council decision.
Right, okay.
I mean, if you want to make a record that that's something you'd like to see, you can always do that.
Madam Chair, do you want to finish what you were saying?
Yeah, so one of the other hot buttons that I know that the city, I think would be helpful for us to have a discussion on is the short-term rental again. Some things have come up that are just kind of skirting around the edges. So I think if we wanted to have a study session, as city has suggested before, it might be nice to do it on a very short case night.
Right.
And have a study session where we pick like one of these items or a couple of the items and just start discussing and talking about it, and then coming up with some recommendations that we can send for more investigation and research, so that we have some better answers and direction on things. So if you're good with those three I just spit out, which was, and maybe priority, Rick, would be the short-term rental one, and then you can choose between used cars and car lots and car washes. But if you guys are willing and interested, I think that might be helpful.
I
for
think
all of
the
us.
short-term rental, I think we need to look into that, but I figure that's something council, I think, because, I mean, we look at our, the tax that we charge for the hotels. I'm thinking the Airbnb should be getting charged as taxes. A lot of people are going to that.
They do.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, but I don't know if we could do that or if it's something.
We did it.
We did?
Uh-huh.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
let's see something I didn't see. I haven't seen that, that's why I didn't know.
Yep. We are. But there's some that are sneaking in without doing that, so we want to make sure they're not sneaking in. Okay, so we'll deal with it next time when we have a shorter one. This planning commission is adjourned at 8:56 p.m.